Today I want to do a complete test of Motivator and just go over, is this coachability useful in college football 26, man? I did this test last year. I ain't gonna lie, it was a little bit underwhelming, and you will be surprised the tier 3 Motivator, how good and how bad it might actually be in this video game. If y'all do enjoy this content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate y'all boys, man. Check out the ebooks down below. All of this information will be in there as well. So what we're testing today is going to be the Motivator coach ability. So the way we done it is we have simmed 10 different times, 10 different save files, and we just advanced to see having the manual progression makes this test perfect, first of all. But all we did was advanced, and we just documented how many skill points that same player got every single time. So we did it one time with no Motivator, and then we did it a different time with Motivator on that player, on our head coach. And yeah, this is the ability we're testing. This tier 3 pit and work is the name of the ability. Wide receivers and tight ends get an off-season training boost. And we're at National Signing Day, and all you gotta do is just advance one time, and then training results will hit. So we got this coach ability on our head coach, but our offense and defensive coordinator, we do not have the coach ability whatsoever. So we do have, we have it for the quarterback, but we're testing it with wide receivers. We have 2 wide receivers we're looking at. Let's also look at the defensive coordinator, and he does not have the coach ability for wide receivers. He has talent developer, but is also not for wide receivers. So we're not getting any additional boost. The only variable here, the only difference here is going to be having that tier 3 motivator and not having the tier 3 motivator. And let me show you a test run of how I done this, pretty much this whole entire testing for this video. So I have a save file, and all I do is come in here, load into the save file, and then we'll come over here to UCLA, and this is the save file. Like I said, we're at National Signing Day, and the players, the 2 players we focus on are going to be 2 wide receivers. They're both a 71 overall. Jaden Marshall, first of all, shout out to you, bro, if you're watching this. And then also Carter Shaw, who is both a 71 overall, but they both start off with 0 skill points. So all we do is go ahead and advance. And this is the save file where we have Motivator purchased on our head coach. We have the tier 3 Motivator already purchased for our coach. So let's go ahead and advance, and you'll see how much XP the player gets directly. So every single time you advance is different if you didn't know. That's the same exact thing from last year. So every time we go back on the save file, they get a different amount of XP. So this time, Jaden got 55, and the reason I chose these 2 players at the same position because one has star development, one has normal development. I also want to test if you have star development and you have the tier 3 motivator, well, maybe that motivator will be more impactful. Maybe having that tier 3 will be more useful on a star or elite development player compared to a normal development player. Am I testing? That's not the case. It's actually the opposite. When we had the normal development player, when we upgraded the tier 3 motivator, actually the normal development player got more XP, got more coach points. And like I said, being able to have manual progression on and actually see the skill points is super, super useful this year. Last year when we did this test, we had to just do it by auto progression. So sometimes they'll upgrade abilities, sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes they'll upgrade certain things compared to other things. Now we just get to see the skill points, and it directly tells us how much, pretty much how much this badge, this tier 3 motivator is actually doing. So this time, Carter got 27, which is pretty much a little bit on average for how much he'll get as, when we have motivator purchased. And then also Jaden Marshall, the 55 is actually on the low end of, having motivator purchase and him having star development. That's on the low end. Now I want to show you how I did it for pretty much the other version when we didn't have motivated purchase. All I did here is come into the save file, come back over here to the Dynasty. So let's come into this save file where we don't have anything purchased on our head coach. Come over here to this one, and you'll be able to see we don't have anything purchased for our head coach. And yeah, we don't have the motivator whatsoever. Same exact coordinator, same exact everything. All we're going to do is now just sim. Let's come out of here. Now we're just going to sim to the trainer results. And we just did this 5 times and we just compared. That's all we did. Super simple. We just compared. So this time, training results, and we could come over here and look at our 2 receivers. So Jaden ends up getting 60 skill points, which is more than what he got with the tier 3 motivator. Like I said, every single time is going to be random. Every single time they'll get a different amount. But this time, just the luck of the draw, he got more skill points without even having the tier 3 motivator on our head coach. This time, Carter Shaw got 25. The last go around, he got 27. So he actually got less. This is how it should be. But I think this kind of gives you an idea of, how the tier 3 motivator actually is, and really shows you that maybe it's not as good as we all thought. So this is my Dynasty test from last year when I went into Motivator and I just pretty much did the same exact test last year, man. Like I mentioned, it was a little bit different just because you could not see their actual skill points they was getting each year. You could only see, the only thing you could see that last year was actually their overall increasing, and it was a little bit varied. It was a little bit janky, especially because sometimes they'll upgrade abilities, sometimes they wouldn't. And when you upgrade abilities, it don't affect your overall. So what we saw last year, it wasn't all that useful. Like, just being honest, it was not all that useful. You see here the difference, same as that guy, same as that test from last year. And it was useful overall, but in some situations, not having Motivator was actually better. And that should never be the case. Even in a small sample size, that shouldn't really be the case. And we had 2 situations here. It's only by, 0.4, but 2 situations in the last year test where, we didn't really see a difference with the Motivator. And you'll kind of see that this year, man. Like, it's definitely a benefit, but not as large as I would have thought. I would have thought maybe 5 for this current year, 5 more skill points if you have Motivator compared to if you don't. And then even if you have star development, I would have guessed that number would increase. It doesn't really. Now, first of all of this is from the ebook, man. All of this stuff is from the ebook. Check it out down below if you're interested in it. So what we have it here is this year test. So our 2 guys, Jaden and then Carter, we tested them without the motivator, and it was only 5 sims, small sample size, but this is what we pretty much got. 59. It say overall, we're gonna change that. It's 59 was the average average amount of skill points he got through the 5 years. 59 skill points. His highest was 62 without motivator. This is without motivator, by the way. His lowest was 56 without motivator. When it came to Carter, he has normal development, so we see that number a lot lower, but the lowest he ended up getting was 23, the highest 25 in the 5 testing with an average of 23.6, which is not great. Now, with the tier 3 motivator only on our head coach, we now saw the high for Jaden go up to 63, and we got 63 a couple times. This makes me believe if we would have continued to do this test, maybe we would have got a 64, 65. Maybe we would have did a sample size of 10, 20. Maybe we would have got a 65, something like that. But we saw the low only be 57, which is, better. 1.8 difference. So we're getting pretty much essentially 2 more skill points difference when it comes to Jaden in this test. Now, looking at Carter, his high was now 28 and his low was 24. So we do see the threshold increase. Now, the interesting part is his difference was 2.6, which is a lot better than Jaden, which is, star development compared to normal development. But this, variance could be from a small sample size. But we do clearly see here that Motivator is doing something. It's just not a great boost. I ain't gonna lie, man. At least when you only have it on one coach. A 2 skill point difference, you're not really gonna tell, man. Like, that's not that major, a 2 skill point difference. Now, when you consider that's for your whole entire position group, okay, then it becomes a lot more valuable. Because, you have 6 receivers and they all get a 2+ skill points, or 2+ skill points. Well, now you're looking at plus 12 across all the receivers, and that's useful. That's useful. But what happens when you factor in other coaches? And I'm assuming it's going to be similar to the other tests we did this year, where every coach adds in the same amount. We did that test for the mind reader ability, which is allows you to see development trait. And every time you add a coach, whether it's a head coach, a coordinator, you pretty much got like a 30% increase chance to see their development trait. I'm assuming it's the same thing here, man. I don't even think I need to test it because it didn't change all that much. It kept a lot of things similar and also simple. So, I think you'll see, like I said, on average, I'm gonna say you getting around a 2-point bonus. I'm gonna say around 2 bonus skill points when you put that tier 3 motivator on. Now, when you add another head coach, okay, now you're at 4. If you have 3 coaches, your head coach, your offense and defensive coordinator, all with that tier 3 motivator, I believe you're going to get up to 6. I believe you're going to see a 6 skill point difference for any player compared to not having that. And that is pretty significant. I'm not going to lie. That is pretty significant if you're able to stack on these coaches with the same exact ability. But that's pretty much all I got for this one, man. Y'all let me know what y'all want to see next. If y'all want to see me test Architect, I tested it last year, didn't love it. I could try it again. Or if y'all want to see Talent Developer to see if Talent Developer is better than this Motivator, it should be, in my opinion, should be better. But if y'all want to see me test it, let me know. If y'all enjoy the content, like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate y'all boys. We on to the next one.